Yes, I am live. Good day, bonsoir, wherever you are. Famo Gila Gila, welcome to the space with me. I want to thank you very much for joining me. I am your Lord Dandelion, and I'm going to give you a little education on dandies. They come from a long, long time ago, but they are the basis of art and expression. And even though they came from good money, they died either with syphilis and no money, or went to jail and finished up in Mauritius, of all places. Surprise, surprise. NJD, my favorite donut. Welcome. So, just to start off the show, we give a little bit of a intro. Who we're going to be speaking about? We're going to speaking about Oscar Wilde, of all people. I never knew he was a dandy.
Arrogance.
Arrogance is an overbearing trait defined by an inflated sense of self-importance, a feeling of superiority, and a dismissive attitude towards others. The key signs of arrogance: condescension, talking down to people, and making others feel small, not listening, refusing to hear others' views, because one assumes they already know best, rejecting feedback, refusing to admit mistakes or accept criticism. Common types: the overt arrogant, loud, boastful, and the aggressive behavior. The intellectual one, assuming one is always the smartest person in the room. Defense, acting superior, out of a hidden fear of being wrong. The opposite is humility, listening, valuing what other people have to say, learning, knowing that there is always more to find out, and respect, treating everyone as an equal instead of looking down on them. You to this time. Yeah. You were not there, you learned to hide. Not the night you broke just to survive. You were not the hand that let you fall, or the echo of a slam shut wall. Every scar has somewhere it began. Every fear was once a helping hand. But what you do with all that? It made sense to build those walls back then, but you don't have to live inside them. You get to decide who you become. You get to ride from where you're from. Take the pain, take the truth, take the fire, help it grow. Turn the wounds into windows. Let these old stories go. You're not defined by where you've been. You hold the pen. Begin again, and again, and again, and again. You are not your childhood storm, not the love that missed your form. You are every brave and learning step, every breath you take instead of regret. Question what you were taught to fit, different ground and path is clear. Broken pieces don't mean defeat. There we are beneath your feet. To keep you safe somehow. But freedom's calling louder now. You get to decide who you become. You get to ride from where you're from. Take the left, take the scar, take the truth. You couldn't stay. Turn on to your power. Let it light the way. You're not defined by where you've been. You hold the pen. Begin again. Rewrite the story line by line. The past shaped you, but it's not your spine. Every ending cracks a door. You're not done yet, you're even more. You get to decide. This life is yours. The masterpiece from sky to floor. Make them built apart. You try to outrun. Turn them into purpose. You only begun. You should wait. Yeah, yeah. You will not your pain. You will what you choose to do with it. You get to this side. You get to this side. You get to this side. You get to this side.
Good day, mate.
You get to this side.
How you doing?
You get to this side. Yeah. You were not there.
Wicked!
The night you broke just to survive.
Babes!
You were not the hand that let you fall, or the echo of a slam shut wall. Every scar had somewhere it began. Every fear was once a helping hand. But what you do with all that weight is how you choose the shape of fate. It made sense to build those walls back then.
I didn't think I should go live now. I was going to set to go live a little later tonight.
Take the truth, take the fire, help it grow, turn the wounds into wisdom.
So I'm going to show you about Oscar Wilde. I never knew this. I really never, ever. And I don't know, if it, is it on the cover of the magazine? Did you see his burial? You see, he was buried a pauper in England, and then the French put up a big woo-ha, and they reburied him in Paris. He's very famous in Paris, and that is his headstone, Oscar Wilde. It's quite rude, actually. If you look at it, he's got a little peepee there. But there was so much graffiti, so much graffiti. But he's like an upside-down sphinx, hey? Like a girly boy. But he was a very intelligent man. Very. And he was arrogant about his intelligence. And I think that's what killed him in the end, if you know what I mean. And that's what I said. Arrogance is what kills. Humility is what wins. Now, it was a video about the dark dandies. Oscar Wilde versus Charles Baudelaire. The dandies of darkness. The dandies of darkness.
House with talk of Celtic heroes and legends, contributing to Oscar's own grandly resonant Gaelic middle names. Fingal
Bum bum bum. It's working
her
better.
somewhat theatrical persona and her connection through her mother to the Gothic novelist Charles Maturin, author of Melmoth the Wanderer, added particularly in classics, laying the groundwork for his future scholarly achievements. He secured sharing rooms with the society portrait painter Frank Miles in Salisbury Street, off the Strand. He quickly set about establishing himself within London's artistic and social circles. His wit, charm, and provocative pronouncements on art and life made him a sought-after guest at dinner parties and salons. He became the self-appointed apostle of the aesthetic movement, championing the doctrine of art for art's sake, derived from Pater and French theorists like Théophile Gautier. He argued for the supremacy of beauty and artistic sensation, often shocking conventional Victorian sensibilities with his epigrams that seemed to prioritize style over substance, appearance over morality. His flamboyant dress, velvet jackets, knee...
He is the original mogger, hey? When they mog each other, it's about lifestyle. It's when they create their velvet jackets and hats like no one else, looking quite feminine with knee-high boots, and just being exaggerated, arrogant. But this guy was one of the top educated men in, he was educated in Trinity College, of all places, in Ireland. And he was in the top of creativity. And so he was like a lux maxer of the day. This is the 1890s or the 1880s.
Breeches, silk stockings, often accompanied by a lily or sunflower, and his languid poses became instantly recognizable and widely discussed. This carefully constructed public image, combined with his undeniable charisma and intellectual brilliance, made him a prominent, if controversial, figure. He became a darling of society hostesses, but also a target for satire. The humorous magazine Punch frequently caricatured him, exaggerating his aesthetic postures and pronouncements. Most famously, he was widely seen as the inspiration, along with others in the aesthetic circle, for the character Reginald Bunthorne,
And that's
the
his
fleshly poet in Gilbert
Parisian
and Sullivan's
cheekbone.
hugely popular comic opera Patience, which premiered in April 1881. While the satire might have stung, it also significantly amplified his fame,
Punch
making
fancy
Oscar
portraits.
Wilde a household name, synonymous with the perceived excesses and absurdities of the aesthetic
My dear.
movement. Seeking to solidify his literary reputation beyond social celebrity and caricature, Wilde gathered his verses written over the previous years and, in 1881, published his first collection, simply titled Poems. He financed the publication
What was it
himself,
called?
demonstrating his determination to
He
be
called his
recognized
book
as a
Poems.
serious artist.
Hey,
Poems
Doc.
showed clear influences from his romantic and pre-Raphaelite predecessors, Keats, Swinburne, Rossetti, and explored familiar aesthetic themes of beauty, art, and classical antiquity. The reception was mixed. Some critics praised the technical skill and lyrical quality, while others dismissed the work as derivative or overly sensuous. Nonetheless, the publication marked an important step.
So what these two men did is they pissed off high society, because they wrote about lesbians and gays, and Oscar Wilde went to jail for multiple, I think about there were 6 witnesses, and eventually he was tried. I mean, his friends told him he had enough money. He had enough money, just leave the country, leave. And 24 hours later, he was arrested. Anyway, I can make this faster now.
Establishing Wilde as a published poet and adding another dimension to his rapidly growing public profile. Wilde's burgeoning fame, amplified by the success and satire surrounding the aesthetic movement, soon presented a unique opportunity. Richard Doyley Cart, the enterprising producer of Gilbert and Sullivan's operas, saw a chance to promote the American tour of Patience. He reasoned that sending the opera's supposed real-life inspiration, Oscar Wilde himself, on a lecture tour across North America would generate publicity and pique interest.
Thanks, Weekend, for
Wilde,
popping by. I
eager for
really
wider
appreciate
recognition
it.
and perhaps needing the
I'm glad
income,
you're having a good
readily
summer.
agreed. He set sail for New York in late 1881, arriving in January 1882. The tour, initially planned for a few months, stretched to nearly a full year due to its surprising popularity. Wilde traversed the continent, delivering lectures in major cities and remote.
But you know what I hate about these historical, especially this one's not that bad, but it's brand new. They just put up pics of things that have nothing to do with what they were talking about. You know what I mean? They got fuck all to do with. You'll see how this ends, and then it's this lavender fields. Meantime, the guy's busy hung or something like that. Let's see. Go a little bit forward.
He became a regular book reviewer for publications like the Pall Mall Gazette, producing insightful and often witty critiques.
He hired male prostitutes and had fun with hotel bellboys.
His most significant journalistic role came between 1887 and 1889, when he served as the editor of Woman's World magazine, previously The Ladies' World. Wilde aimed to elevate the publication beyond mere fashion and society gossip, commissioning articles on literature, art, politics, and social issues, and contributing editorial pieces himself. He successfully raised the magazine's intellectual profile, though he eventually found Guard theatre he admired. While Salome would face censorship challenges in England, it represented a bold artistic statement. Crucially, the summer of 1891 also marked a fateful personal encounter. Through the poet Lionel Johnson, Wilde was introduced to Lord Alfred Douglas, a handsome, aristocratic...
Wow, it was so funny. I was watching Lionel Nation now on his live, and there was Total Pain in the Ass. Do you remember Total Pain in the Ass? He or she comes up on you and comments. Watching Lionel Nation. And this poet is also a Lionel.
Aspiring young poet, then an undergraduate at Oxford. Known as Bosie to his friends, Douglas was captivated by Wilde's brilliance and fame, while Wilde was drawn to Douglas's youth, beauty, and noble lineage. This meeting initiated an intense and tumultuous relationship that would profoundly shape the course of Wilde's life and ultimately contribute to his tragic downfall. Meanwhile, Wilde's theatrical ambitions began to bear fruit.
I agree with you, Dot. But those were the days. Women couldn't work.
His first major society comedy.
Women couldn't work. These were the 1880s. Women couldn't work. Men wrote for women for what you programmed the women. I mean, it's what they were doing it then already in the magazines. You don't think we were programmed in the 80s? 200 years later.
Lady Windermere's Fan premiered at the St. James's Theatre under the management of George Alexander. Subtitled, A Play About a Good Woman. The work cleverly combined sparkling epigrammatic wit, social satire, and elements of melodrama wrapped in a well-crafted plot involving secrets, scandal, and maternal...
So even then, us dandies were programming the women.
Sacrifice. It was an immediate triumph, delighting audiences and critics alike, and establishing Wilde as a major force in contemporary English theatre. He followed this success with A Woman of No Importance, which opened at the Haymarket Theatre on April 19th, 1893. Again, the play blended witty dialogue and social commentary with a more serious exploration of societal hypocrisy and the plight of a fallen woman. It proved another significant hit, solidifying Wilde's position as the most talked about playwright in London. During this period, Wilde was at the zenith of his fame and creative power, celebrated for his dazzling wit, his artistic innovations, and his mastery of the stage. While Wilde basked in the success of his society comedies, his relationship with Lord Alfred Douglas intensified throughout 1892 and 1893. Their association became increasingly public and Wilde chose confrontation. Against better judgment and the advice of more prudent friends, Wilde decided to sue the Marquess for criminal libel. On March 1st, 1895...
So that's what happened there. This guy who owned a publication, he sent out a... he made it all public that Oscar Wilde has got all these people have got wanting to lay charges. Now remember, there was a difference in those days, but if you did bad, you were going to get in trouble. Doesn't matter if you're a lord or a lady. But yeah, so now he decides to sue this guy for defamation, and dun 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 dun.
Wilde obtained a warrant for Queensberry's arrest. The trial of the Marquess of Queensberry began on April the 3rd, 1895, at the Old Bailey. Queensberry's defence team, led by the formidable barrister Edward Carson, ironically a former Trinity College contemporary of Wilde's, entered a plea of justification. This meant they intended to prove that Queensberry's accusation, however crudely phrased,
exactum Moley again, Dot. You're keeping that. You're connecting those dots, darling. You're connecting those dots. But my argument is women need to be controlled. They need to obey their husbands. They need to know that even if they're thinking they're an elder, a man knows more.
was substantially true, that Wilde had indeed engaged in homosexual practices, posing being interpreted as being. To support this, Carson and his team had gathered damaging evidence, including testimonies from several young men, male prostitutes and hotel attendants, with whom Wilde had associated, often introduced to him by Douglas. Wilde, initially confident and performing brilliantly in the witness box during his own examination, deploying his famous wit, soon found himself cornered under Carson's relentless cross-examination. Carson skillfully used Wilde's own writings, passages from Dorian Gray, poems and private letters to Douglas obtained by Queensberry, against him, suggesting they revealed immoral and unnatural inclinations. More devastatingly, Carson questioned directly about his relationship.
Oh, it's serious. It's serious. What do you mean? It's very, 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 very serious. I almost became a Satanist when I read those lines there. That's Saint Paul, who started the Catholic Church. He decided that we change Saturday to Sunday. Yeah, even though they're Saturnian, they're a Saturnian club, the Catholics. But I think it's in Chronicles. Let me ask. Have you noticed that ChatGPT is on? It goes to Facebook now. I was so angry. Oh no! What was I looking for? Okay. Bible scripture. Bible scripture where Paul says that women must keep quiet in the church. The main scripture where the Apostle Paul writes about women keeping quiet in the church is in Corinthians 14:34, verse 35. Another related message with a similar instruction is in 1 Timothy 2, verses 11 to 12. So 1 Corinthians 14:34, verse 35, Paul instructs women to remain silent, not speak, and be in submission, advising them to ask questions at home rather than in the church. In 1 Timothy 2, verses 11 to 12, women are told to learn in quietness and full submission, with Paul stating he does not permit a woman to teach or have authority over man. Contextual interpretations. These passages are interpreted in various ways, with some viewing them as specific instructions for disorder in a particular church, while others apply them as a general ongoing rule for women's roles in ministry. The interpretation is further nuanced, and comparing them with other Pauline writings, because Paul became Pauline and put on a dress and became Pope. Nuanced by comparing them with other Pauline writing such as 1 Corinthians. So he's obviously writing to the Corinthians, and the Corinthians were in Greece, I think, which mentions women prophesying. Yeah, well, from the bosom to the God, promise you the woman know much more when it comes to spirituality. And Galatians 3, verse 28, which emphasizes equality in Christ. See, they try to soften you up here now. If you'd like, let me know. Would you like to explore the historical background of the Corinthian church? Or would you like to look at the different modern denominations applied? No, don't rewrite the Bible for me. Sorry. So sorry. I pissed you off like that. Okay, here we go. Silencio. Silencio. Let me type it. Let me learn from the best. Silencio. Silencio. Oh, silencio. Okay. Which means silence in Italian. Must women be silent in churches? Question mark. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 34. The interpretation has proven to be more than a little controversial over the years. The reason for that is due in no small part to the clash that this text brings to modern egalitarian sensibilities. Paul writes, do you want to go out? Okay, see you, sister. Later. Just stretch when you're done. As in all the churches of the saints, the women should keep silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be in submission, as the law also says. And if they desire to learn anything, let them ask their own husbands at home, for it is improper for a woman to speak in church. Fuck. And you know what? My friend in Ireland, ex-friend, asshole, he said, anyway, he said, what the fuck? He said, read that scripture. And when I read the scripture, it was 2020. We were in lockdown. And I was completely furious. I was completely furious. A man knows more about some things, but the same is true for women. They know more about some things than men, only because they keep them secret. They never tell the men. Never, ever. Never open that mouth. Never. That's why you should stay silent. It's always better. Life gets better. Oh, are we having church today? You started this. I just got we had a detour. Silencio. 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 Mission says, I also believe the book removed from the Bible says Jesus offered to turn woman into a man so she could enter the kingdom of heaven. Did they not allow women into heaven those days? Paul stole. Paul was a soldier, and his name was Saul, and he used to kill Christians. He was a very high-ranked soldier in Rome in the Roman times, and so the Pope, no, not the Pope, the Caesar was Constantine, and it was actually Constantine's mother that instructed Saul to become Paul and become the first Pope. Most of all the what do you call it? The pilgrimages, the Christian Catholic pilgrimages across Europe, across Rome, were instructed and built, and she went and investigated and saw them herself. The first ones, the whatever you call it, statues or churches or cathedrals or how can you call it, pilgrimage places to go to for pilgrimage, pilgrimage. And so she instructed Paul to do this before he became Pope, because he became Pope after Constantine died. And Constantine never became a Christian. Constantine, he went to war. He marched on to war under Solus Minerva. No, not Solus Minerva. That's his wife. That's his sister. It's Solus Invictus. And hence that we have the Invictus Games by Old Harry. Jesus told Peter, I missed that. Jesus told Peter he could turn Mary Magdalene into a male. No, man. Mary Magdalene was the most important disciple in Jesus's flock. He kissed her and he kissed Peter. And many were very jealous of Mary Magdalene, and that's why in the days of Pope Paul, they made her out to look like a prostitute, but she wasn't. She was connected to God and Sophia. If you look at the whole picture, if you step back from it and you look at it all much closely, Mary was very spiritual, like John. There you got the four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. John was the freaky one. He was the woo-woo one. If you read his book, you'll love it. And it's funny how you get that John. That John could have been John the Baptist, but they say it's not. But even my church, the big Happy Clappy church I went to, they can seat 10,000 people there, is in shape of a shell. And that's why we have Go Well, Go Shell, the Shell petrol company. It's all about John the Baptist. And you can go and do a pilgrimage of 1,000 kilometers through Spain. And at the end, it's called the Camara, what do you call it? The Camara walk. You walk 1,000 kilometers and you get to this church, and then they open the church and they swing this big, what do you call it, incense thing, and the bells ring, and there's just shells everywhere. The clam shell, the clam shell, which is funny because Venus is painted with the clamshell. She's standing in the clamshell. But this clamshell comes from John the Baptist. John the Baptist was beheaded by King Herod in Jerusalem. And John the Baptist was even told by Jesus Christ himself, he says, no, you are better than I. You are better than I. It's an ancient sect of Christianity. Johannism. It's called Johannism. But it's also representative represented by a cock, a rooster. No. And remember, I don't know if you ever experienced having these on top of the chimney stacks in Ireland, England, and South Africa. We would have a cock on top of the wind vane on the chimney, or the wind vane on the house. And that represents Johannism, which is still Christianity. But when this last Pope was inaugurated, crowned, we saw for the first time the Abraxas. The Abraxas is represented by a superhero god, muscular, with a cock head, a big cock head. How did this come to this? Lord have mercy. Let's go do something else here. Let's go back. Back.
Ships with specific young men, exposing the dangerous underworld he had frequented. Faced with mounting evidence and Carson's incisive questioning, Wilde's composure crumbled. It became clear that continuing the prosecution would only lead to further damaging revelations and likely perjury charges.
Funny.
On April 5th, the third day of the trial, Wilde's counsel
See you in hell, then.
Queensberry was triumphantly acquitted.
That's what I said to Sippy. I'm not probably going to go to hell, but I'll always preach Jesus. I'm not going to preach Johanna, because you know what? A chicken in Dutch is a haan, in Afrikaans is a haan, and we've got a lot of people in South Africa called Johan, and most of them have small penises. It's funny. It's a thing. I promise you. I've had a lot of Johans.
Wilde left the courtroom a ruined man. The consequences were immediate.
Satan is a woman. You're going to hate hell.
Effectively validated the accusations against Wilde. Evidence gathered for the libel trial was handed over to the Director of Public Prosecutions.
Ah, Satan! Oh, Lordy Lord!
Charges of committing acts of gross indecency with other male persons under Section 11 of the Criminal Law Amendment Act of 1885, the Labouchere Amendment. Despite pleas from friends to flee the country while he still could, Wilde seemed paralyzed.
The year of the cock. That was my luck. Like I told you, I don't have good luck, but on the big things, I have fucking good luck. I arrived in London in 2005. It was the year of the cock, and it was Sunday, and I'm in with Shirley on Trafalgar Square, and it's packed with Chinese people and Chinese vendors, and because behind Trafalgar Square is Chinatown. And wow, we watched some Chinese performances, and then we just went up the road and we had a drink and in a bar. It was my first weekend in London. It was very Chinese, funny enough, eh? I'll be in good company. Satan.
By indecision or a sense of fatalism. He remained at the Cadogan Hotel, where he was arrested the following day, April 6th. Wilde's first criminal trial began on April the 26th, 1895, again at the Old Bailey. He was tried alongside Alfred Taylor, the man accused of procuring young men for him. The prosecution presented evidence from several male prostitutes detailing their encounters with Wilde. Wilde's defense attempted to discredit these witnesses and portray Wilde as a victim of blackmail. The trial generated enormous public interest and scandal. After several days of testimony and legal argument, the jury on May 1st announced they were unable to reach a verdict on the main charges against Wilde, although they convicted Taylor on some counts. Wilde was released on bail pending a retrial.
Oh, retrial, and he lost.
Criminal trial. Oscar Wilde was released from Reading Jail on the morning of May 19th, 1897, having served his full 2-year sentence with minimal remission.
2 years.
His
Nothing.
release was carefully managed by loyal friends, including Moray Day and Stuart Headlam, to avoid the glare of press attention. A broken man, physically weakened and emotionally scarred by his ordeal, financially ruined, and a social pariah, he knew he could not remain in England. He was immediately escorted to the coast and boarded a ferry at New Haven, crossing the English Channel to Dieppe in Normandy, France. He arrived later that same day, stepping onto foreign soil as an exile, never to return to England alive. Seeking anonymity, and perhaps embracing the symbolic weight of his suffering and wandering, Wilde adopted the pseudonym Sebastian Melmoth. Sebastian invoked the Christian martyr pierced by arrows, while Melmoth was borrowed from the tormented protagonist of Melmoth the Wanderer, the Gothic novel by his great-uncle, Charles Maturin. Under this name, he attempted to build a new, quieter life. He spent the summer and autumn of 1897 in the seaside village of Bernaville.
Why are they putting a speedboat there?
Here, he made a valiant effort to resume
What's
writing.
the speedboat for? Did you run out of
By the
fucking
execution of a fellow inmate he had witnessed at Reading,
content?
Charles Thomas Wooldridge. This work would become The Ballad of Reading Jail. However, the pull of his past proved difficult to resist. Despite the strenuous objections of friends like Robert Ross and the explicit conditions set by his estranged wife Constance regarding his allowance, Wilde agreed to a reunion with Lord Alfred Douglas. They met secretly in Rouen in August 1897 and subsequently travelled together to Naples, Italy, where they rented the Villa Giudice and attempted to rekindle their relationship. The reunion, Wilde's debts, largely through royalties from his works, especially the plays which gradually returned to favour, clear his name and ensure the publication of his remaining writings. In 1905, Ross published a significantly edited version of the prison letter to Douglas, giving it the title De Profundis. This publication offered the public a glimpse into Wilde's suffering and intellectual reflections during his imprisonment, beginning the slow process of reassessing his life and work. A more fitting final resting place was secured thanks to the efforts of Ross and the generosity of one of Wilde's admirers, Helen Carew. In 1909, Wilde's remains were exhumed from Bagneux and transferred to the prestigious Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, the burial site of many famous artists and writers. Ross commissioned the modern sculptor Jacob Epstein to create a monumental tomb.
An Epstein, it had to be an Epstein, Jacob Epstein, can you believe it?
Directly from Hopton wood stone, inspired by Assyrian motifs, was controversial.
I know.
It's become an iconic landmark. The tomb was unveiled in 1914. Throughout the 20th century, Wilde's reputation underwent a dramatic
But
transformation.
check, everybody's written something on it. This is the clean one.
He gradually came to be recognized as one of the most important writers and cultural figures of the late Victorian era. His plays, particularly The Importance of Being Earnest, became staples of the theatrical repertoire worldwide. His novel, essays, and fairy tales were rediscovered and celebrated for their wit, style, and intellectual depth. His life story, with its dramatic rise and fall, became a subject of enduring fascination, interpreted variously as a cautionary tale, a martyrdom for artistic and sexual freedom, or a complex tragedy. The full text of De Profundis, finally published in its complete form by Rupert Hart Davis in 1962, based on the manuscript held in the British Library.
This is the graffiti.
Understanding of his prison experience and complex personality. Today, Oscar Wilde is celebrated not only for his brilliant writing, but also as a symbol of aestheticism, individualism, and defiance against repressive social conventions.
Imagine you have a tombstone and they put graffiti on your tombstone. So now, this guy is called, what's his name now? Oh, gosh. Oh. There's another dandy there, Lord Alfred Douglas. So this guy is now, this is the second part, Charles Baudelaire. Now, he's more straight. He likes lesbians. So
profound act.
He was born, and then his father died, and then his mother took him underneath her wing and mollycoddled her, and so he grew up without a father and with a mad mother, with lots of money. But only when he turned 21 did he get his £100,000 from the trust fund, and so he went on to his merry way. And the first woman he met looked like my mother. I'm not going to find it here.
Modest artistic sensibility, dabbling in both painting and poetry. It was this artistic inclination, this engagement with the visual, that Baudelaire later credited with instilling in him an early fascination with images, a foundational element of his later aesthetic theories. Charles's mother, Caroline Archimbaud Dufay, presented a stark contrast in age, being only 27 at the time of his birth. She was Joseph Francois's second wife, married to him just 2 years earlier in 1819. Little is recorded about her life before this marriage, but she brought youth and perhaps a different kind of sensibility into the elderly civil servant's household. The significant age gap between his parents created a unique family dynamic, positioning Charles as the child of his father's old age. This configuration was dramatically altered on February 10th, 1827. Joseph Francois died.
Blue
His
again.
widow, and Charles,
You're right.
6 years old, fatherless. The 18 months that followed were, in Baudelaire's later, perhaps idealized memory, a period of intense,
So
almost
this thing
suffocating
doesn't. I have
intimacy
to
with his mother.
refresh this.
Living alone together, their bond deepened, creating what he
I
recalled
don't
as a
get all
time of
the
exclusive devotion,
messages.
a lost paradise of maternal love.
Why?
This perception, whether entirely accurate or retrospectively embellished, highlights the profound significance of the maternal figure in Baudelaire's emotional development. The perceived idyll shattered on November. Melancholy, a tendency towards introspection and moodiness that seemed out of step with his peers. He was also perceived as cultivating certain affectations unsuited to his age. Perhaps early signs of the dandyism and deliberate cultivation of an outsider persona that would later define him.
Mission.
He chafed against the school's discipline, his relationship with authority figures already
These
scarred by
guys,
his
when you get onto
conflict.
something, you get onto it.
This tension.
Mission says, I don't have it on the StreamYard here. I don't know why. Oh, there it's coming. Yes, it's like listening to a history documentary while watching the documentary of travel on silence. I don't know. Hello, how are you doing, Guardian? I see you now. Whenever I hear the AI voices, it makes my brain twitch. You glitch, darling.
Culminated in April 1839, when, just months before he was due to complete his studies, Baudelaire was expelled. The catalyst was a minor infraction, refusing to divulge the name of a classmate who had passed him a note. But his defiance in the face of questioning sealed his fate. It was an early instance of the rebellious pride and refusal to conform that would characterize much of his life. Despite this ignominious end to his time at Louis le Grand, Baudelaire possessed the intellectual capacity to succeed academically when he chose. After a period of study at the less prestigious Collège Saint-Louis, he sat for and successfully passed the rigorous baccalaureate examination in August 1839. This qualification marked the end of his formal secondary schooling and opened the door to higher education, or at least the semblance of it. The years immediately following the baccalaureate, roughly 1839 to 1841, were pivotal. Officially, Baudelaire enrolled as a law student at the École de Droit in Paris, likely to placate his family. In reality, his true life unfolded far from the lecture halls, amidst the vibrant, impoverished, and intellectually stimulating chaos of the Latin Quarter. He plunged into the bohemian world, frequenting cafes, associating with aspiring writers and artists, and forging his first real literary friendships with figures like Gustave Le Vavasseur and Ernest Prarant. He began writing poetry with greater seriousness, experimenting with his voice and themes.
But watching this made me want to read more books. I was never into, I don't know poetry, really. I don't know anyone, really. I don't know anything. But I used to write poetry myself. You know me, I acted like these people when I was young. Far too arrogant. Thought you could do everything. You can't get everything you want when you do everything you want.
This period offered intellectual freedom and camaraderie, but also significant dangers. Baudelaire lived irregularly, neglected his nominal studies, and began accumulating debts. borrowing money to sustain a lifestyle beyond his limited allowance. It was during this phase of youthful
Mission. Music has been AI for the last 26 years. If you hear drums in a song, it was never made by a drummer. Never. For the last 26 years. So if you think that's not AI, it was AI. AI's been around for longer than you think in music. Let me have my money.
And disregard for convention that he also suffered a life-altering consequence. He contracted syphilis, most likely from a prostitute known only as Sarah Lalouchette. This incurable disease.
That's good. You'd like to have your opinion, Dot. You must express your opinion. But then again, you are a rogue, a renegade rogue. You're rogue in Wolverine.
Disease, shrouded in shame and poorly managed by 19th century medicine, would cast a long, dark shadow over his future health, contributing to decades of physical suffering and ultimately his premature death.
You two Aquarius.
Dissolute life in the Latin Quarter, the debts, the bohemian companions, the alarming diagnosis of syphilis pushed his family to act decisively. General Orpik, embodying conventional discipline, and Caroline, perhaps torn but ultimately concurring, saw a long sea voyage as the only solution. Their plan, conceived in the spring of 1841, was twofold. Remove Charles from the temptations of Paris and instill some sense of order through the rigors of maritime life, hoping the journey to Calcutta might broaden his horizons or even spark an interest in a respectable career in colonial trade. On June 9th, 1841, the 20-year-old Baudelaire likely protested.
You know what it is, Mission? It's how can I call it? It's almost vanity. You're flattering yourself. So just like me, I'm so proud of my AI videos, and I show it to people, and they're like, they're like, what? What, you didn't create it? Well, in actual fact, I did. If it wasn't my words, my typing, it wouldn't exist. Now, that's the whole problem with Grok, is they have to keep on making it better for the creators who think they're creators like me, and they're trying to make it more and more and more realistic. And I don't know if you're a gamer or not, but I watch, what's his name, Asmongold, and I've seen some of his complaints, well, or his flattery of the games. But what they've done is, like, they've taken Harry Potter, and Harry Potter doesn't look like Harry Potter anymore. AI created something new, and so the gamers are quite pissed off about that. So I understand that, but that's what AI's problem is. It wants to do its version for you. And that's what you are disliking, and that's what you are actually noticing and seeing, but the people who are creating them are not. I don't know if you're on Twitter or not. Have you seen some of what the stuff that Iran produces on Twitter? It looks so real, and it's Grok. And you see all these missiles pointed there. What actual work did I do? Well, it's not work. It's just knowing, having the knowledge on how to use. There's like 15 or 12 different AI operating tools. And if you know how to use them, they are only tools. That's all at your disposal. And they will do, and you have the option to correct it multiple times. I, on the other hand, I don't know, Mission, you haven't known me long enough, but I'm the worst editor in the world. And so, because I only get like 5-6 second videos to change the way I do, and I add them together. But it does produce some sort of effect when there is a repetition. You know, it's like ad hominem. It's politics, babes. But to create a jingle for a commercial or advert on TV, it's perfect. If you're a small man or a small business and you want to do a marketing feature, AI is here to stay for that. And but I've started to learn to just scroll on by because that's fake AI. I watched someone play uh, every instrument and sing, then overlay them. Yes. Now that's work and worth the few. But I mean, haven't you seen these instruments, these modern instruments? We used to have the keyboard and we used to have the piano, and now you've got these little boxes and they just tap the little buttons and it creates your whole song for you. And you sing with that. What's that famous song? What's it? Jay-Z and it's 2000. Jay-Z and not Coldplay, that other. I wish I had a memory. I got a sieve. I'd watch someone play an instrument and sing together and over. I want to hear the opera, the complete dictionary performed by AI. You see, Mission, it's like Barbara Streisand, it's like Madonna, it's like all of them. It's all fake. It's all fake. You're not listening to them sing, I promise you, since Britney Spears. They've all been miming. They've been putting out a little bit. I want to, what? Bitch better have my money. Then I will get into it, the rap version. Perfect Mission. I've become so numb, I don't have to so numb. Let me get the song, and then you'll see it. But there must be a live band, and then he taps that thing. Even U2 said no. Linkin Park, baby. Live performance with Jay-Z. It's most probably going to be blocked in Russia and Belarus. But watch the beginning. This is 16 years old. He's not 16 years old, the song, the performance is. Did you see it? There it is. It's AI. That's AI. It's artificial intelligence. It's there to help you. We could have the AI raster version. Okay, now you're just trying to sweet talk me. Disagree with me, fuck's sakes. I never liked Jay-Z. I only found out about him when I landed in Ireland. I never knew who the fuck he was. I don't know that Rasta is Rasta. Yes, it is. Streisand was around long before Britney. Streisand doesn't do many lives because she forgets her lines, so she needs a teleprompter, an auto cue, and but believe me, even what's her name? She got the stiff man syndrome. All of them. They sing along to the backing track. She's screwed up now. Barbara. Oh, Bob, she's fucked. Don't make me get my bed sheet. What? Are you going to pee in bed? You must get a nappy. What's that called there? What do you call a nappy? We're all screwed up, for fuck's sakes.
Protesting vehemently, but ultimately powerless against his family's decision backed by legal authority, was escorted aboard the Paquebot des Mers du Sud. The voyage was framed as an educational opportunity, but for Baudelaire, it felt like deportation. Life aboard the ship did little to change his perspective. He found the routine monotonous, the society of merchants and colonial officials tedious, and the enforced proximity unbearable. Yet the journey itself, the vastness of the ocean, the changing skies, the encounters with different climates and cultures began to seep into his consciousness. The long days at sea provided ample time for reflection, observation, and perhaps the gestation of poetic ideas. When the ship reached the Mascarene Islands in the Indian Ocean in September 1841, Baudelaire seized his chance. Arriving in Port Louis, Mauritius, he refused to travel further. Whether through sheer obstinacy, feigned illness, or persuasive charm, he convinced the captain to allow him to disembark. He spent several weeks on Mauritius, and then travelled to the neighbouring Île Bourbon, now Réunion. Here, far from the grey skies and intellectual confines of Paris, he encountered a world of vibrant colour, exotic vegetation, intense heat, and a different rhythm of life. He absorbed the sensory richness of the tropics.
He's like supposed to be the next Michael Jackson.
The anger of colonial.
Justin Bieber was going to be the next Michael Jackson, but he said no to eating babies.
Society. Though his stay was relatively short, these islands became a potent symbol in his imagination. A lost paradise of sensual beauty and exoticism that he would later evoke with powerful nostalgia in poems like Une Dame Créole, dedicated to Madame Otard de Braga, whom he met in Mauritius, and the lush imagery found in pieces exploring memory and escape. Having successfully curtailed his prescribed journey, Baudelaire secured passage back to France. He landed in Bordeaux on February 15th, 1842.
Listen, I'm so dark. When I got my first phone with a camera, what do you think I took a photograph of? What do you think?
Perspective perhaps subtly altered, his store of imagery enriched, but his fundamental character and conflicts largely unchanged. Awaiting him was a significant milestone, his 21st birthday in April 1842. This meant he finally attained legal majority and, crucially, gained access to the substantial inheritance left to him by his father, Joseph Francois. Suddenly possessed of a fortune amounting to somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 francs, a very considerable sum at the time, Baudelaire decided to take control and financially equipped to live exactly as he pleased. He immediately embraced this freedom with defiant extravagance. Rejecting any notion of prudence or investment, he dedicated himself wholeheartedly to the art of living, specifically the carefully cultivated life of the Parisian dandy. He took up residence on the fashionable
Parisian dandy,
initially at the Hotel Cornet, and later famously at the Hotel Pimodon, Hotel de Lausanne, at 17 Quai d'Anjou. This historic building was not only architecturally splendid, but also housed the infamous Club des Hachichins, a loose gathering of writers and artists, including Théophile Gautier, who met periodically to experiment with hashish under the supervision of Dr. Jacques-Joseph Moreau de Tours. Baudelaire participated in these sessions between 1843 and 1845, meticulously documenting the sensory distortions and psychological effects, experiences that would inform Les Paradis Artificiels. His dandyism extended to meticulous attention to his appearance.
His dandyism.
Clothing from expensive tailors, carefully chosen accessories, and the curation of his surroundings.
This is looks
maximum. Apartments with fine furniture, paintings, rare books, and objets d'art, creating an environment dedicated to aesthetic pleasure. He spent prodigiously on fine dining, expensive wines, and entertaining, quickly attracting attention in artistic and bohemian circles for his refined taste, his provocative conversation, and his apparent wealth. This period of lavish spending coincided with the beginning of the most significant romantic relationship of his life. Shortly after his return in 1842, he met Jeanne Duval. Details of their first encounter are obscure.
Look at that woman.
Duval, an actress and dancer of striking appearance, and
my brown-eyed girl. Do you remember when we used to sha la 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 la
Asian
la
ancestry
la.
immediately captivated him. She became his mistress. The embodiment of an
But then,
relationship with Jeanne Duval continued. It was punctuated by other involvements. He had a significant but relatively brief affair with the actress Marie Dobrun around 1847, a relationship that inspired a different cycle of poems, often characterized by themes of escape, idealized beauty, and treacherous allure, perhaps influencing poems like Chant d'automne or L'invitation au voyage. Simultaneously, he developed a complex, largely epistolary relationship.
and that's my problem. Photographing a penis is not that easy either. And it doesn't look as big as it is. And then, as soon as it looks so good, then I have to find the fucking camera. And the nana just gets smaller while I'm trying to find the fucking camera. Oh, so then I gave up. I was good at a time. I was good, but it takes so many tries to get the right angle of the dangle, baby.
Relationship with Apollonie Sabatier, a wealthy, intelligent courtesan whose popular salon was a meeting place for artists and writers. Known affectionately as La Présidente, Sabatier became the object of Baudelaire's idealized devotion.
Fuck knows.
For several years, he sent her anonymous poems expressing worshipful admiration, placing her on a pedestal as a muse of spiritual beauty, a stark contrast to the dark
This sounds like
sensuality
me and
associated with
Rose.
Duval. These different relationships reflect the fragmented and often contradictory nature of Baudelaire's emotional
Who
and
knows?
erotic life during this formative period. The year 1848 brought revolutionary upheaval across Europe, and Paris was once again at its epicenter. In February, widespread discontent with the conservative policies and perceived corruption of King Louis Philippe's July monarchy boiled over into open revolt. Barricades sprang up across the city, and after several days of intense street fighting, the king abdicated, leading to the proclamation of the Second Republic.
The Second Republic.
Charles Baudelaire, the aesthete seemingly preoccupied,
Didn't like that. He tried to politics, but then Napoleon came in.
class conflict, pitting the workers against the forces of the Republic, led by General Cavaignac.
Coming out.
Baudelaire, consistent with his earlier revolutionary fervour, appears to have sided with the insurgents, participating in the desperate and ultimately doomed struggle on the barricades. The bloody suppression of the
Oh,
Days,
please,
with
Mission.
thousands killed or deported, marked
You've
a decisive
seen
conservative
her
turn in the Second Republic, and likely
cookie,
contributed to Baudelaire's
her
growing
snatch.
political disillusionment.
You've seen it.
His final significant foray into active politics came in response to Louis Napoleon Bonaparte's coup d'etat on December 2nd, 1851. Louis Napoleon, elected president of the Republic, largely on the strength of his
Yeah,
name,
is that
overthrew the
bad?
constitution to seize absolute power.
I don't
paving
think
the way for his
Pornhub
declaration
works
as
here
Emperor
either
Napoleon
anymore.
III.
I actually uninstalled Pornhub. I uninstalled it because it didn't even work. So that's a good thing.
Following year, Baudelaire joined the limited and quickly suppressed street resistance against the coup. The ease with which the Republic was dismantled,
Indeed,
an authoritarian regime established.
it's terrible. They all look crap, and then you have to do administrative work on your phone.
Seems to have profoundly disheartened him. He later claimed that the events of December 1851 marked the definitive end of his active political engagement. Witnessing the triumph of military.
So what they want to do with the kids here is they turn off the internet after 9 p.m. for under 17 or under 16, under 17 or under 16. And then when you turn 18, then you can get 24 hours. No, you have to finish school yet. For school-going people, the internet gets cut off. Do you know that? They're going to cut the internet off for school-going children after 8 or 9 p.m. at night, which I think is a brilliant idea. Otherwise, the world's going to go mad.
Military force and the apparent apathy of the populace convinced him, he suggested, of the futility of direct political struggle for an artist.
Well, that's good, but I think you're a little bit like me and Mission. We're not into making babies. So, yeah, you know, the rich people don't want the poor people to disappear. They don't like the poor people. And now with Elon Musk making all the robots to replace all the poor people, they must be going to push the button on all the COVID people that got injections. Or now they're saying, if you've had the COVID injection, you're not allowed to fly, because then you've got a thrombosis, deep vein thrombosis issue because of the COVID, because pilots are crashing the planes that took the COVID. It doesn't make us feel better, does it?
Henceforth, he would retreat into his work, declaring that under a military dictatorship, the only dignified response for a man of letters was literature itself. While he never entirely lost his critical perspective on society and power, the brief, intense period of Baudelaire, the active revolutionary, was over, replaced by the more enduring figure of Baudelaire, the alienated observer.
Everything bad happens online. It's
turned
true.
his back on direct political action after Louis Napoleon's 1851 coup, Baudelaire retreated into the realm where he felt he could make a more lasting impact. Literature. The period from 1852 to 1857 was marked by intense intellectual labor, primarily focused on translation, criticism, and the painstaking assembly of his own poetic work. Central to this phase was his profound and almost
Nobody wants to make babies
with Edgar Allan Poe. Baudelaire had encountered Poe's stories and poems around 1847, likely through translations or articles in French journals. He
China will
experienced
take over Australia.
recognition, seeing in the American writer a reflection of his own obsessions.
That's what Mission
The
looks like.
exploration of psychological extremes, the fascination with the grotesque and the arabesque, the pursuit of beauty in unconventional forms, the figure of the misunderstood artist struggling against a hostile or indifferent society. He famously declared, "The first time I opened a book by him, I saw with terror and delight not only subjects I had dreamt of, but sentences I had thought and which he had written 20 years before." This sense of profound kinship fueled a monumental translation project. Baudelaire dedicated himself to rendering Poe's works into French with unparalleled stylistic fidelity and empathetic understanding. This was not merely a commercial task. It was an act of devotion, a way of championing a fellow artistic soul whom he believed had been unjustly neglected, particularly in America.
Really? Wow.
Starting in the early 1850s, he meticulously translated Poe's tales, essays.
Well, we're completely sold out to China, but China doesn't really like. Do you know that the Chinese are quite racist with other Chinese? Toshikans, how you doing? And the Chinese, they don't like dark Chinese. If you're dark, that means you work in the paddy fields. They're very racist.
And poems, publishing them serially in journals before collecting them into volumes. The first major collection, Histoires Extraordinaires, Extraordinary Stories, appeared in 1856, followed by Nouvelles Histoires Extraordinaires in 1857, and later Aventures d'Arthur Gordon Pym, Eureka, and Histoire Grotesque et Sérieuse. Baudelaire's translations were widely acclaimed for their literary quality,
Yes, they have.
effectively creating Poe's reputation as a major writer in France and continental Europe, an influence that would resonate through symbolism and.
But the modern society in Chinese is very Western. Very, very Western. It's like the top class fucking supermarkets you're walking through. For the tourists, Beijing and Shanghai are beautiful, and Hong Kong, the most modern cities. Our city was modern in the 70s, and it went down in the 90s. Toshi, how you doing, lovely lady?
And beyond. This demanding work provided Baudelaire with a modest but necessary income stream, while also allowing him to immerse himself in an aesthetic universe closely aligned with his own. Simultaneously, Baudelaire continued to hone his skills as a critic. He published essays on contemporary art, notably reviewing the Exposition Universelle of 1855, where he again championed Delacroix and offered sharp critiques of other artists. He also wrote perceptively on caricature, analyzing the social commentary embedded in the works of Daumier and Gavarni. His intellectual curiosity extended to the effects of intoxicants, building upon his earlier essay.
Did you see how mothers were taught how to give birth in the paddy fields? And if they gave birth to a daughter, they learned how to, if the firstborn was a girl, they would slice it up and bury it, and then it never existed. This was happening in the 90s, in the early 2000s. Still, I mean, there's 1 billion people in China. It's so sad.
Du vin et du hashish. He gathered his reflections, informed by personal experience but increasingly critical of the illusory nature of drug-induced states, for the book Les Paradis.
Yes, and Mission, Japan has a problem with Africans too. I mean, the Japanese, they're the most ultimate elite of all humanity. They have such culture that we would never be able to understand, culture and respect and humility. There is another side of Japan as well. My one family friend, uncle, went there with his wife, and he said he did see the dark side of Japan. But I mean, now we've even got South African expats there in Japan. And so they want to live in their own areas and they don't want to assimilate. And the Japanese have had enough. It's the same story everywhere, everywhere.
The Artificials, which would appear in 1860. These critical writings, diverse in subject matter, consistently showcased Baudelaire's unique perspective. His ability to connect aesthetic phenomena to broader cultural and psychological concerns, and his mastery of evocative prose. All this time, the slow, arduous process of creating and refining his own poetry continued. He worked meticulously, constantly revising and polishing his verses. Individual poems began to appear more frequently in literary reviews, such as L'Artiste and Revue de Paris, giving the public glimpses of his unique and often unsettling poetic world. By 1855, he felt ready to present a more substantial selection. He submitted a group of 18 poems to the highly respected, somewhat conservative Revue des Deux Mondes. Published in the June 1st issue under the title Les Fleurs du Mal, this selection served as a significant preview of the forthcoming collection, introducing his challenging themes and distinctive style to a wider, more mainstream audience.
They feed them into the fucking human trafficking, and then people buy these children. Oh, it's so sad. Well, they don't buy them. They buy them, but you never see them in public. You never see them grow up. You never see them. They're just used and they become slaves.
Likely testing the waters for the reception of the full volume. Finally, after years of composition, revision, and negotiation with publishers, the first edition of Les Fleurs du Mal was published on June 25th, 1857. Some sources cite June 21st or 23rd. His chosen publishers were Auguste Poulet-Malassis and Eugène de Boise, known for their willingness to handle potentially controversial works. The volume contained 100 poems, carefully arranged by Baudelaire himself into 5 thematic sections: Spleen et Idéal, Fleur du Mal, Révolte, Le Vin, and L'Amour. This structure was integral to the work's meaning, charting a course through the poet's experience of modern life, from the depths of despair and urban alienation to fleeting moments of beauty. Revolt against convention, artificial escapes, and the final confrontation with mortality. The title itself, The Flowers of Evil, was deliberately paradoxical, suggesting the possibility of extracting beauty from suffering, sin, and decay, a central tenet of Baudelaire's aesthetic. The reaction was immediate and polarized. While some critics recognized the book's originality and power, the dominant response, particularly in the official press aligned with the moral conservatism of Napoleon III's Second Empire, was outrage. The poem's explicit sensuality, their exploration of taboo subjects like lesbian love and vampirism, their perceived morbidity, and their questioning of religious and social norms were deemed scandalous. Less than 2 weeks after publication, on July the 7th, the Ministry of the Interior initiated legal action. On August the 20th, 1857, Baudelaire and his publishers stood trial before the 6th Correctional Chamber of the same tribunal, charged with outrage à la morale publique et aux bonnes mœurs, offense against public morality and good morals. The charge of offending religious morality was dropped. Baudelaire's lawyer, Gustave Chaise d'Estanges, argued eloquently for the book's artistic integrity, but the court remained unconvinced. Baudelaire was found guilty, fined 300 francs, a sum later reduced to 50 francs following an appeal supported by Empress Eugénie, and, most damagingly, ordered to remove 6 specific...
Also in Korea, in South Korea, Mission, Many young men are ending their lives, jumping from the buildings, overdosing. I wonder how KTO is. It was so strange to hear earlier that KTO's adopted daughter died of an overdose in 2017. And she went to the graveyard, the tombstone in Belfast, Maine, today.
Scientific poems from any future editions. These condemned poems, Lesbos, Femme d'Amé, Delphine et Hippolyte, Le Rété, à celle qui est trop gaie, Les Bisous, and Les Métamorphoses du Vampire,
Exactly.
became notorious symbols of the censorship Baudelaire faced. The trial, while a personal and financial setback, cemented Les Fleurs du Mal's status as a succès de scandale, ensuring its place in literary history as a work that dared to confront the darker realities of the modern soul. The aftermath of the 1857 trial brought Baudelaire notoriety, but little financial relief or personal peace. The fine, though eventually reduced, added to his mountain of debt, and the condemnation of his work deepened his sense of alienation from mainstream society. The years following.
People are fuel, I mentioned. People are fuel. And you know what? I don't know if you've seen these new things coming up with the food that we're eating is fake or full of parasites, and the food moves. It's shocking. Now, obviously, half of them is fake, or it's not fake, it's planted. It's just made to make you shocked about the food. But if we bring it back to what's happening now with Candice and the human trafficking, and Erica, and what do they do with the babies? They eat the babies. Epstein, they eat the babies, they drink the blood, they first scare them and they horrify them, and then they drink the blood. I learned, I went down the rabbit hole, and what's happening now is in the Franklin Boys at the, it's like Boys Town in America. Then the young boys, well, 16-year-olds, young men, would be transported to the White House, where Daddy Bush would have secretly Franklin Boys at the White House. Now, this is still connected to the entire, this is the same cabal of these people that do human trafficking for the rich and the famous. And then after that, I saw another video of the Hampstead 2. You can Google it, or you can YouTube it, the Hampstead 2, where there's two young kids, 8, 9 years old, are outside a swimming pool, a public pool, and they're telling this reporter of how they, in the church, they would have child sacrifice, and then the flesh of the children were used to make mincemeat at McDonald's for burgers. That was also struck as conspiracy theory, but we don't know anymore, because the pronouns of a conspiracy theorist is "I told you so." Hopefully, it's a good day with the grandkids, and it's a beautiful outside. Yes, for KTO, please, yes. Mission is a good thing. I'm not worth much then, lol. No, you have so much economic value in your little island. I promise you, Dot. You keep the economy going with all your prescriptions and hospital visits and doctor visits. Promise you, you pay those people's bills. Not even worth stealing the parts from us, Dot. What parts? There you are, Jack. How you doing? Hey, Jack. Trafficking me would cost them too much money. Yeah, luckily I have that autoimmune disease. They don't want any body part from me. Wait, wrong one. Okay, time to go back in. I'll be back. Damn, it's blistering today. Oh, Dot, how's the weather? I wanted to ask you. It looked good, but you're on the West Coast, so it could be bad. Mission, no one would want to traffic me. I'd annoy the shit out of them. No, but remember you were sitting in the car park that one day. You were telling us on a live. You were sitting in the car park, and then the Spaniola, Latina, came to you and offered you to go with him wherever you may go, and isn't a mountain too high. Did you see that girl that got she she was chained to the bed on the second floor, and somehow the abductor, which was a Latina, uh, was out, and she somehow broke the window and was screaming, and somebody alerted the popo, and they went on the roof and they went in, and she was like a whimpering dog, a real slave in a house in America, a blonde. That's how it happens. That's also a form of human trafficking. So don't think they. There are many people that hide that what you call it. It's called kidnapping, and then you do what you want with a slave, and they need to bring your walker, dog, and carpet. No, let's say it's too much effort.
Following the trial, leading into the early 1860s, were a continuation of the patterns established earlier. A relentless struggle against poverty, exacerbated by the constraints of the Conseil Judiciaire and his own inability to manage money. Recurring bouts of debilitating illness, as the tertiary stage of syphilis began to manifest more severe neurological and physical symptoms. And the pervasive grip of spleen, those agonizing periods of depression, creative paralysis, and profound existential despair. His relationship with his mother, Caroline, entered a new phase following the death of General Orpik in April 1857, just before the Fleur du Mal trial. While the primary source of Baudelaire's resentment was removed, their interactions remained complex. Caroline moved to Honfleur on the Normandy coast, and Baudelaire visited her there periodically, finding temporary refuge. There were moments of tenderness and shared grief, particularly as Caroline herself aged and faced loneliness. However, fundamental tension, digestive problems, possibly early neurological signs. His reliance on laudanum, tincture of opium,
because he didn't have penicillin.
In March 1866, while visiting the Baroque church of Saint-Loup in Namur with his friend Félicien Rops, Baudelaire suddenly collapsed. He had suffered a massive stroke, resulting in severe aphasia, loss of speech, and right-sided paralysis.
Do you know how you detect syphilis in your body? You see it on your palm of your hands and on the soles of your feet. It shows a black dot, like a bruise, a black dot. No, but it looks like a bruise on your sole or on your palm of your hands. So, yeah, that's what it looks like. But obviously, he's surpassed the initial phase of the black bruise dot on your hand.
Hemiplegia. At the age of 45, his literary voice was silenced, and the final tragic chapter of his life began. The stroke that held Baudelaire in Namur in March 1866 was catastrophic and irreversible. It left him with severe aphasia, robbing him of the ability to speak coherently, but his comprehension remained largely intact. He also suffered from hemiplegia, paralyzing his right side. After initial care in Brussels, his devoted mother, Caroline Orpik, arranged for his transfer back to Paris in early July 1866. He was admitted to a specialized clinic, the Maison du Bois, run by Dr. Émile Duval, located in the Chaillot district at 1 Rue de Dôme. This would be his final residence. For the next 13 months, Baudelaire lived in a state of profound dependency and near total silence. His existence became a slow, agonizing decline, a living entombment. While mentally aware, capable of recognizing visitors, expressing emotions like anger or affection through gestures, and understanding spoken language, he was trapped, unable to articulate the complex thoughts surely still forming within his mind. His vocabulary was reduced to a single, often repeated expletive, crénom, a contraction of sacré nom de Dieu, a heartbreakingly inadequate tool for the master linguist. His physical condition steadily deteriorated under the relentless progression of neurosyphilis. Madame Orpik was his most constant visitor and caregiver, spending hours by his bedside nearly every day. Their relationship, fraught with tension for decades, found a tragic, quiet resolution in these final months, defined by maternal devotion and filial helplessness. A small circle of loyal friends also paid visits, offering what comfort they could. Figures like the publisher Auguste Poulet-Malassis, despite Baudelaire owing him considerable sums. The photographer Nadar, the critic Sainte-Beuve, who had often clashed with Baudelaire critically but recognized his genius, and Asselineau, his future biographer, came to witness the slow dimming of this extraordinary intellect. Jeanne Duval, herself ill and impoverished, reportedly visited him at least once, a final poignant encounter between the poet and his dark muse. Throughout this period, Baudelaire remained acutely aware of his condition, often displaying intense frustration at his inability to communicate. There were moments of lucidity, recognition, and emotional response, but the overall trajectory was one of fading consciousness and physical decay. On August the 31st, 1867, after more than a year in the clinic, Charles Baudelaire died peacefully, likely from complications related to his syphilis. He was 46 years old. His funeral, held on September 2nd at the nearby church of Saint-Honoré-des-Laux, was a modest affair. Perhaps fewer than 100 people attended, a mix of literary figures, including Paul Verlaine and Stéphane Mallarmé, representing the younger generation already influenced by him, loyal friends, and family acquaintances. The official eulogies were brief and somewhat reserved, reflecting his controversial status. He was buried later that day in the Montparnasse cemetery. In a final, bitter irony, his remains were placed not in a grave bearing his own name, but in the Orpik family vault, alongside his mother and the stepfather he had so profoundly resented. In the years immediately following his death, Baudelaire's literary executors, primarily Charles Asselineau and Théodore de Banville, worked to secure his legacy. A third, more complete edition of Les Fleurs du Mal, including previously unpublished poems and juvenilia, was published in 1868 with a preface by Théophile Gautier. Perhaps most importantly, the collection of prose poems Baudelaire had meticulously crafted over many years finally appeared in book form in 1869, edited by his executors under the title Le Spleen de Paris, though Baudelaire himself had preferred petits poèmes en prose. His extensive critical writings were also gathered and published in volumes like Curiosités esthétiques, 1868, and L'Art romantique, 1869, showcasing the breadth and depth of his insights into painting, literature, music, and modern culture. Later, his intimate, often revealing journals, Fusée, Mon cœur mis à nu, and his voluminous correspondence were published, offering invaluable perspectives on his life, thought, and creative process. While misunderstood and condemned by many during his lifetime, Baudelaire's influence grew exponentially after his death. The symbolist poets of the late 19th century, Verlaine, Mallarmé, Rimbaud, explicitly claimed him as their master, recognizing his pioneering exploration of suggestion, synesthesia, and the hidden correspondences between the material and spiritual worlds. His unflinching portrayal of urban modernity, his fusion of high lyricism with base subject matter, his formal innovations in both verse and prose,
I know. That's why I die, man.
Subsequent generations of writers
when I die, I
across
die.
Europe and beyond. The
I
ban on
don't
6
curl up
condemned
and
poems from Les Fleurs du Mal remained a legal reality for nearly a century, a testament to their enduring power to shock, until it was finally overturned by the Cour de Cassation in France on May 31st, 1949, formally rehabilitating the work. Today, Charles Baudelaire stands as arguably the most important poet of the 19th century, a crucial bridge between Romanticism and modernism, whose dark, complex, and exquisitely crafted works continue to define our understanding of the modern condition.
So, I've got a song for you, and it's not AI, but I'm still going to get copyright strike for it. It's called Dandy by the Kinks.
Dandy, where you gonna go now? Who you gonna run to? Are you yelling all night? You're chasing all the girls. They can't resist your smile. Oh, they long for that thing. Poured out your charm to meet your own. The Dandy Warhols. This is godless. Seriously. Where she just runs away. Oh, oh dear. Well, it wasn't AI. Pissed someone off there again. Shame. Sometimes we can't hear you with your phone. Okay, sorry. It sounds all muffled. Yeah, it's too strong, too loud. Anyway, that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed keeping me company. I hope you enjoyed yourselves too. I think you did. Yeah, I can't hear that. Well, I won't play it. That's the end of the show. Thank you very much for joining me. Please hit the thumbs up as you go. Thank you very much, Mission, for keeping me company. Have a good night's sleep. Oh, it's your morning, isn't it? It's very early hours of the morning for you. Hit that thumbs up. No, that history thing. We've been watching. Well, you weren't here from the start, you see. These were the two famous dandies. And that's why we were watching it, for educational purposes, for fair use. And so you know, I'm a modern day dandy. I might be the reincarnation of Oscar Wilde. See you everyone later. Lovely. Ciao for now. Tot ziens. Salani Gartley, Hambani Gartley. Remember, life gets tougher, but we get smarter. And if we try a little bit harder, just keep it. I mustn't be melancholy like a dandy. Standing day here for a car show, not a cloud in the sky. Oh, enjoy, darling. Enjoy. Thanks for keeping me company. Don't be so serious. Life is mysterious. Until next time, be good at it. I came in 9 minutes late. I was earlier than normal. A round of applause for Dot. Ciao for now. Where did it go? There. Bye.